Inner guidance is not something you need to create, it is something you need to notice. It has always been present within you, quietly observing, patiently waiting for your awareness to turn inward. From the very beginning of your life, there has been a subtle intelligence guiding your thoughts, your feelings, and even your choices. Yet it does not force itself upon you. It speaks gently, often overshadowed by the noise of the mind, the opinions of others, and the constant distractions of the world. This inner guidance does not come in the form of loud commands or dramatic revelations. Instead, it reveals itself as a feeling, an unexplainable sense of knowing. Sometimes it feels like peace in the middle of uncertainty. Sometimes it feels like discomfort when something is not right, even if everything appears perfect on the surface. It is that quiet nudge that urges you to pause, to reflect, or to move in a different direction, even when logic tries to convince you otherwise. Many people overlook this guidance because they are trained to rely only on external validation. They seek answers from society, from friends, from endless information, believing that truth exists outside of them. But the more you depend on external voices, the more distant you become from your own inner compass. The truth is, no external source can fully understand your path the way your inner guidance does. It knows your journey, your purpose, your lessons, and your timing in ways the conscious mind cannot comprehend. When you begin to pay attention, you will notice that this inner voice has always been guiding you. Think about moments in your life when you felt strongly about a decision without being able to explain why. Perhaps you avoided a situation that later turned out to be harmful, or you felt drawn toward an opportunity that changed your life. These were not coincidences, they were expressions of that deeper intelligence working within you. However, this guidance requires space to be heard. When the mind is constantly busy, filled with worry, overthinking, fear, and comparison, it becomes almost impossible to recognize the subtle signals of inner wisdom. The mind tends to be loud and restless, always analyzing, judging, and reacting. Inner guidance, on the other hand, is calm and steady. It does not argue, it does not panic, and it does not rush. It simply presents a quiet certainty. This is why stillness becomes so important. In moments of silence, when you step away from distractions and allow your thoughts to settle, you begin to reconnect with that deeper part of yourself. It is in these moments that clarity starts to emerge, not as a sudden answer, but as a gentle understanding that feels right. You begin to sense the difference between fear driven thoughts and truth driven intuition. Fear often disguises itself as logic. It creates endless scenarios, doubts, and what ifs, trying to protect you, but ultimately keeping you stuck. Inner guidance, however, does not create confusion. Even when it leads you into the unknown, it carries a sense of calmness and trust. It does not promise comfort, but it assures alignment. Learning to distinguish between these two voices is one of the most powerful realizations a person can have. Trust plays a crucial role in this process. In the beginning, it may feel difficult to rely on something you cannot see or fully explain. The mind will question it, doubt it, and sometimes even reject it. But the more you listen and act upon this inner guidance, the stronger your trust becomes. You begin to see patterns, to recognize how following that quiet voice leads you toward growth, while ignoring it often leads to unnecessary struggle. It is also important to understand that inner guidance does not always lead you toward what is easy or comfortable. Sometimes it asks you to let go of things you are attached to walk away from situations that feel familiar, or to step into uncertainty. In those moments, it may feel challenging to follow, but deep within, there is a sense of truth that cannot be denied. Over time, as you continue to listen, you realize that this guidance is not separate from you. It is a part of your higher awareness, a deeper connection to something greater that exists within your own consciousness. It is always there, not judging, not forcing, but gently guiding, waiting for you to slow down, to listen, and to trust. Confusion is a sign of transition. Expand this keynote above 600 words without conclusion and subheading. Confusion is often misunderstood as a weakness, a flaw in thinking, or a sign that something has gone wrong. In reality, confusion carries a deeper meaning. It appears in your life not to break you, but to interrupt the patterns that are no longer serving you. It is a signal that the old ways of seeing, thinking, and living are beginning to dissolve, making space for something new to emerge. What feels like chaos on the surface is often a quiet transformation taking place within. When everything in life seems clear and predictable, it usually means you are operating within familiar boundaries. You are repeating what you already know, following paths that feel safe because they are known, but growth does not happen in the familiar. Growth begins the moment certainty starts to fade. When confusion enters, it shakes the foundation of your previous understanding. It challenges your assumptions, your beliefs, and even your identity. This can feel uncomfortable, even unsettling, because the mind naturally seeks stability and control. In moments of confusion, the mind tries to regain control by overthinking. It starts asking endless questions, searching for immediate answers, trying to force clarity where it has not yet formed. But confusion cannot be solved through force. The more you resist it, the more intense it becomes. It is not something to be fought against, it is something to be observed with awareness. It is a space between what was and what will be, a bridge that you are crossing, even if you cannot yet see the other side. This transitional state often brings emotional uncertainty as well. You may feel doubt, agitation, or even fear. You may question your decisions, your direction, or your purpose. What once felt right may no longer resonate, and what lies ahead may not yet be clear. This creates a sense of being lost. But in truth, you are not lost. You are simply in the process of realignment. The old version of your understanding is fading, and the new one has not fully revealed itself. Confusion also has a way of slowing you down. When clarity is present, you move quickly, often without questioning your steps. But when confusion arises, it forces you to pause. It interrupts your automatic patterns and compels you to look deeper. This pause is not a delay, it is an opportunity. It allows you to reflect, to become more conscious of your choices, and to reconnect with what truly matters. Without this pause, you might continue moving in directions that are no longer aligned with your growth. There is also a hidden intelligence within confusion. It prevents you from making decisions based on outdated beliefs. FS. If everything remained clear all the time, you might continue following paths that are comfortable but no longer meaningful. Confusion creates a gap, a moment where the old answers no longer work. In this gap, you are invited to explore new perspectives, to question deeper, and to expand your awareness beyond previous limitations. It is important to recognize that confusion does not mean you are moving backward. It often appears right before a breakthrough. Just as the sky becomes darkest before dawn, the mind can become most uncertain before clarity emerges. The discomfort you feel is not a sign of failure, it is a sign that something within you is shifting. You are outgrowing old ways of being, even if you do not yet know what will replace them. During this phase, the desire for immediate answers can be strong. The mind wants resolution, something solid to hold on to, but true clarity does not come from rushing. It unfolds naturally when you allow the process to happen. Trying to force decisions in the middle of confusion often leads to choices driven by fear rather than understanding. Giving yourself the space to sit with uncertainty allows a deeper clarity to arise, one that feels grounded and authentic. Confusion also teaches patience. It reminds you that not everything needs to be figured out instantly. Life is not a straight line where every step is clearly visible. Sometimes the path reveals itself gradually, one step at a time. Learning to stay present in the unknown without rushing to escape it strengthens your inner stability. You begin to realize that you do not need to have all the answers to keep moving forward. As you move through confusion, something subtle begins to change within you. Your reliance on external certainty starts to weaken, and a deeper sense of awareness begins to develop. You become more attuned to your inner responses, more sensitive to what feels true and what does not. This shift is quiet but powerful. It marks the beginning of a new level of understanding, one that is not based on borrowed knowledge but on direct experience. Confusion, in its essence, is not an obstacle but a doorway. It is the space where transformation begins, where the old dissolves and the new quietly takes form. Obstacles are divine signals. Expand this keynote about 600 words without conclusion and subheading. Obstacles are often seen as interruptions to the natural flow of life, as unwanted barriers that stand between you and what you desire. The mind immediately labels them as problems, something to resist, avoid, or overcome as quickly as possible. Yet beneath this surface reaction lies a deeper truth. Obstacles are not random. They carry meaning, direction, and an unseen intelligence that is quietly shaping your path. When something does not go as planned, the first response is usually frustration. You may feel that life is working against you, that circumstances are unfair, or that your efforts are being blocked without reason. But if you look closely, you will notice that every obstacle forces a shift. It interrupts your momentum and compels you to become more aware of what you are doing, why you are doing it, and whether it truly aligns with your deeper purpose. An obstacle is not merely a stop sign, it is a question. It asks you to reconsider your direction, your intention, and your readiness. Sometimes it appears to test your commitment. Are you truly aligned with this path, or are you following it out of habit, fear, or external pressure? Other times, it appears to protect you from something you cannot yet see. What feels like a delay or denial may actually be a form of guidance, steering you away from situations that are not meant for you. There are moments in life when you push forward with determination, convinced that a certain outcome is necessary for your happiness or success. But when repeated obstacles arise, it creates friction. This friction is not there to punish you, it is there to awaken your awareness. It invites you to pause and reflect instead of moving blindly. Without these interruptions, you might continue along paths that lead to deeper dissatisfaction or misalignment. Obstacles also reveal hidden aspects of yourself. When everything is smooth, there is little reason to question your inner state. But when you face resistance, your reactions become visible. You begin to see your fears, your impatience, your doubts, and your attachments. In this way, obstacles act like mirrors, reflecting what lies within you. They bring to the surface what needs to be understood, healed, or transformed. At times, obstacles demand growth. They challenge you to develop qualities that you may not have needed before: patience, resilience, courage, or clarity. Without these challenges, those qualities might remain dormant. The very difficulty you wish to avoid may be the exact condition required for your expansion. It pushes you beyond your comfort zone and introduces you to a stronger, more aware version of yourself. There is also a subtle pattern that can be observed when you begin to look at obstacles differently. Some obstacles feel heavy, draining, and filled with resistance no matter how much effort you apply. Others feel challenging but carry a sense of meaning and inner strength as you move through them. Learning to distinguish between these experiences is essential. Not every obstacle is meant to be conquered in the same way. Some are meant to be moved through with persistence, while others are signals to change direction entirely. The difficulty lies in interpretation. The mind tends to react immediately, labeling every obstacle as something negative. But when you step back and observe without judgment, a different understanding begins to emerge. You start to see patterns, how certain paths repeatedly create resistance, while others, even if challenging, feel more aligned. This awareness transforms obstacles from enemies into guides. It is also important to recognize that obstacles often arrive at moments of transition. Just as you are about to step into something new, resistance may appear. This is not necessarily a sign to stop. It may be an invitation to deepen your understanding and strengthen your foundation. It ensures that you are not moving forward unconsciously, but with awareness and intention. In many cases, what appears as an obstacle in the present reveals its purpose only in hindsight. You may look back at a moment of failure, rejection, or delay and realize that it redirected you toward something far more meaningful. At the time, it felt like a setback, but later it becomes clear that it was a necessary turning point. This perspective does not come instantly, but it grows as you begin to trust the process of your life. Obstacles slow you down, but in that slowing down, they create space. Space to think, to feel, to observe, and to realign. Without that space, life would move too quickly for deeper awareness to develop. The interruption itself becomes valuable not because it is comfortable, but because it creates the conditions for a more conscious way of living. As you continue to experience obstacles, your relationship with them begins to change. Instead of reacting with immediate resistance, you start to approach them with curiosity. You begin to ask different questions. Not why is this happening to me, but what is this showing me? This shift in perspective opens a new level of understanding where obstacles are no longer seen as mere difficulties but as meaningful signals guiding your journey. Nay, stillness reveals truth. Expand this keynote above 600 words without conclusion and subheading. Stillness is often overlooked in a world that constantly rewards movement, noise, and activity. The mind is trained to believe that answers come through thinking, analyzing, and doing more. Yet, there exists a deeper dimension of understanding that cannot be reached through constant mental effort. It is revealed only when there is stillness, when the inner and outer noise begins to settle and the awareness becomes clear and undisturbed. Most of the time, the mind is in a state of continuous motion. Thoughts flow endlessly, jumping from one idea to another, replaying the past, anticipating the future, and reacting to every small stimulus. In this constant activity, it becomes difficult to see anything clearly. Just as a disturbed surface of water cannot reflect an image, a restless mind cannot reflect truth. The more you try to force clarity through overthinking, the more clouded your perception becomes. Stillness is not the absence of thought, but the space in which thought loses its dominance. It is a state where you are no longer carried away by every passing idea, emotion, or reaction. Instead, you begin to observe them from a place of calm awareness. In this space, something subtle begins to shift. The urgency to figure everything out starts to fade, and in its place, a quiet sense of understanding begins to emerge. There is a natural intelligence within you that does not rely on analysis or reasoning. It does not argue, compare, or justify. It simply knows. However, this deeper knowing is often hidden beneath layers of mental noise. When you create moments of stillness, you are not adding anything new. You are removing the interference that prevents this inner clarity from being recognized. In stillness, your perception becomes sharper. You begin to notice the difference between thoughts that arise from fear and those that arise from truth. Fear based thoughts tend to be loud, repetitive, and urgent. They push you to act quickly, often without full awareness. Truth, on the other hand, is quiet and steady. It does not rush you, it simply remains present, waiting for you to notice it. Stillness also changes the way you experience time. When the mind is restless, it is always moving away from the present moment, either toward the past or the future. This creates a sense of pressure, as if something needs to be solved immediately. But in stillness, attention returns to the present. The need for immediate answers begins to dissolve, and with it, the anxiety that often clouds your judgment. In this present awareness, clarity has a space to unfold naturally. There is also a deep sense of connection that arises in stillness. When the noise of the mind quiets down, you begin to feel more aligned with yourself. The separation between what you think you should be and what you truly are starts to fade. You are no longer trying to become something, you are simply aware of what is already there. This awareness carries a sense of peace that is not dependent on external circumstances. Stillness does not mean inactivity in life. It is an inner state that can exist even while you are engaged in the work. You can be active externally while remaining calm and centered internally. In fact, actions that arise from stillness tend to be more aligned and effective because they are not driven by confusion or emotional reactivity. They come from a place of clarity where each step feels natural rather than forced. One of the challenges in embracing stillness is the discomfort that may arise in the beginning. When you first step into silence, the mind may become even louder. Unresolved thoughts and emotions may surface, creating a sense of restlessness. This is the natural part of the process. It is not a sign that stillness is not working. It is a sign that deeper layers are being revealed. If you remain present without reacting, this turbulence gradually settles and a deeper calm begins to take its place. As you become more familiar with stillness, you begin to trust it. You realize that not every problem requires immediate action and not every question needs an instant answer. There is a natural unfolding that happens when you allow things to settle. Solutions appear with greater clarity, decisions feel more grounded, and your sense of direction becomes more stable. Stillness also reveals the simplicity of truth. The mind often complicates things, creating layers of interpretation and doubt. But when you are still, you begin to see things as they are, without unnecessary distortion. What once felt confusing may suddenly appear obvious. What once felt overwhelming may seem manageable. This shift does not come from gaining more information, but from seeing clearly. In this quiet awareness, you begin to recognize that truth is not something distant or hidden. It is always present, but it can only be perceived when the mind is calm enough to receive it. Faith over fear. Expand this keynote above 600 words without conclusion and subheading. Faith and fear cannot occupy the same space with equal strength. One always shapes your perception more than the other. Fear arises naturally from the mind's need to protect, to predict, and to control outcomes. It imagines possibilities, often negative, and presents them as warning. While this mechanism can be useful in moments of real danger, it becomes limiting when it dominates your decisions. It begins to hold you back from growth, from change, and from stepping into the unknown. Faith, on the other hand, is not about ignoring uncertainty. It is about moving forward, despite it, with a quiet trust that there is a deeper order guiding your life. Fear is loud and immediate. It demands attention, creates urgency, and fills the mind with questions that often have no clear answers. It asks, what if this goes wrong? What if you fail? What if you lose everything? These questions create hesitation, causing you to pause or retreat even before taking the first step. Fear tries to convince you that safety lies in staying where you are, even if that place no longer supports your growth. It builds a sense of comfort around the familiar, even when the familiar feels limiting or unfulfilling. Faith moves differently. It does not rely on constant reassurance or visible proof. It is a quiet inner confidence that does not need to argue or defend itself. While fear focuses on what could go wrong, faith holds an awareness that not everything is meant to be controlled or predicted. It accepts uncertainty as part of the journey, not as something to avoid. This does not mean that faith removes challenges or guarantees outcomes. Rather, it changes how you meet those challenges. When you act from fear, your choices are often reactive. You may avoid opportunities, delay decisions, or settle for less than what you truly desire. Fear narrows your perspective, making the unknown appear larger and more threatening than it actually is. It creates mental barriers that feel real, even when they are based on assumptions rather than reality. Over time, living under the influence of fear can lead to a sense of stagnation, where you feel stuck but unable to move forward. Acting from faith expands your perspective. It allows you to see possibilities where fear only sees risk. Even when the path ahead is unclear, faith gives you the strength to take the next step. It does not require you to have all the answers. It simply encourages you to trust that clarity will come as you move forward. This shift in approach changes your experience entirely. Instead of waiting for perfect certainty, you begin to move with a sense of openness and willingness. There is a subtle difference in how the body and mind respond to fear and faith. Fear creates tension, restlessness, and a sense of urgency. It keeps your attention scattered, moving from one worry to another. Faith brings a sense of calm, even in uncertain situations. It does not eliminate challenges, but it removes the inner resistance that often makes those challenges feel overwhelming. This calmness allows you to think more clearly and act more consciously. Developing faith is not about forcing yourself to believe something blindly. It grows through experience. Each time you face uncertainty and choose to move forward rather than retreat, you begin to build trust within yourself. You start to see that not every unknown leads to negative outcomes. In fact, many of the most meaningful experiences in life come from stepping into situations that once felt uncertain or intimidating. Fear often focuses on control, the need to know what will happen and how everything will unfold. Faith, however, allows space for the unknown. It recognizes that life cannot always be planned in detail and that some of the most important aspects of your journey reveal themselves only as you move along the path. This acceptance reduces the pressure to have everything figured out and opens the door to a more natural flow of experience. There are moments when fear may still arise, even when you are grounded in faith. This does not mean that faith is absent. It simply means that both are present and you are given a choice about which one to follow. In these moments, awareness becomes essential. By observing fear without immediately reacting to it, you create a gap, a space where a different response becomes possible. In that space, faith can emerge not as a force, but as a quiet alternative. As you continue to choose faith over fear, something begins to shift within you. The unknown becomes less intimidating, and your relationship with uncertainty changes. You no longer see it as something to avoid, but as a natural part of growth. This shift does not remove challenges, but it changes your experience of them. Instead of being driven by hesitation and doubt, you begin to move with a sense of trust and openness that allows new possibilities to unfold.